Hello YouTube, Drakey C here, and gonna talk about my predictions and hopes and my wish list and all that for E3 this year. First time being on camera and doing any sort of reactions, especially E3 reactions, so I decided to make an overlay if I ever do any more reactions or ever get into streaming. And there's we go, and that's where I got my YouTube up in the corner up there. So that'll be what it looks like on stream day. And if I ever do start streaming, I got a window where I can put the chat here and can put the social media links along the bottom there. So that's something I whipped up for this. So with E3 itself, the three things I'm going to be watching is the Microsoft conference, really Bethesda, because I don't own an Xbox. I don't care about Xbox. Never cared. Not that I get nothing against Xbox, I just don't care. I'll be watching Nintendo conference and I'll be watching the Square Enix conference. So from Bethesda, absolutely we're gonna see Starfield, I think, because Todd Howard said it's been the company's priority for the last few years now, and it's time for that big reveal and release date and all that. Uh, I think we're probably also gonna see something. Well, maybe we'll see something on the Elder Scrolls 6. People have said, of course they're gonna port Skyrim to next gen consoles again, which would not surprise me at all. They've embraced the meme that Skyrim is on everything now. They made a commercial about it. Um, but I could see them announce at least, probably not a trailer, well maybe a trailer, but more likely just announcing the title of what Elder Scrolls 6 will be. So that'll be neat. Regarding the Fallout series, it's hard to say. I'd like to think they're gonna do something with Fallout because Microsoft paid 7.5 billion for Bethesda. They're gonna want that money back, and Fallout is one of their big two IPs, so it makes sense that something will happen with Fallout. And right now, the only thing happening with Fallout is Fallout 76, which, um, what's the technical term? Trash fire. It was a trash fire. So I think they got to do something with Fallout to win back PR, and I hope Bethesda's self-aware enough to recognize they got to kiss a lot of ass with the Fallout fan base right now. So we might see something with Fallout. I think we'll see Fallout 5 or some comparable spin-off, or like like with New Vegas, that could be a main series title. I don't think we'll see that. What we could see, maybe remasters of Fallout 3 and 4 and New Vegas, or just one of them. Maybe just one or the other. Like if they did 3, I'd assume they'd do New Vegas too, or they might just do 4 by itself, or they might do all 3. There's a potential they could remaster Fallout 1 and 2. This is more speculation and wish list than something I think is actually going to happen, but yeah, like the original Fallout used claymation sprites, as far as I know. In this day and age, there's no reason you can't do the same thing with 3D models. Load a model into a model viewer, take screen caps of it going through a running animation, and there's your sprite sheet for a Fallout 1 and 2 remaster. And that'd be nice to see. I don't think they'd do it though, because I think like they'd probably see bigger returns on remasters of 3, 4, and New Vegas. So if we see any sort of remasters or re-releases from Fallout, it'll be those 3. Maybe remasters or remakes of Oblivion and Morrowind, but I feel like if they were going to do that, they would have done it by now. So we'll have to wait on Skyblivion and Skywind for that, I guess. But and there is one other Fallout thing that they might do, which makes sense, but I don't think many people will be excited, which is Fallout Shelter Online, because it is a thing. It was a thing in various Eastern Asian countries. I believe it started in China, and then it released in a bunch of other countries, including Japan, Korea, the Philippines, and I think India. It makes perfect sense to take it global. Like, why confine it to this when if you go global, more people can play it, you make more money. Uh, I think the original Fallout Shelter did fairly well, so it makes sense that if they're going to do a sequel to it and Fallout Shelter Online, put it global. So that may be a thing that it's announced, but I doubt people will care that much because mobile games. But we'll see. So that's Bethesda. With Nintendo, I made notes here on the various franchises I'm interested in Nintendo, and noted the last time we saw something from them, it occurred to me we haven't seen anything from their big franchises lately. Like Mario Odyssey came out in 2017, and since then we got New Super Mario Bros. U Deluxe remastered or re-release rather, and we also got 3D World Bowser's Fury. But we haven't seen anything in like a main title that isn't a remake or remaster or re-release or whatever. So I could absolutely see an announcement of Super Mario Odyssey 2. If that'll actually happen, I don't know, but it feels like there's some sort of big Mario thing should happen at E3, should be revealed. And as for the other big flagship title, Breath of the Wild 2 for Legend of Zelda, they have to show us something. Age of Calamity has come out. People are still waiting on Breath of the Wild 2, and there's been no news. They have to show us Breath of the Wild 2. People want to see it. I want to see it. Show us Breath of the Wild 2, Nintendo. Are you listening? Okay. Uh, another big flagship franchise is Donkey Kong. Donkey Kong Country Returns Tropical Freeze. I don't remember its original release date, but I know it got ported to the Switch a couple years ago. So I think it's time for a third one. And I'd like to see the Kremlings return if they do a third one. Third one, it's a trilogy. K. Rool is back in the public eye thanks to Smash Brothers at last. It's time for the Kremlings to come back to DK Isle. So maybe we'll see that. It could be a thing, maybe not. I don't know how like I consider Donkey Kong the third big flagship of Nintendo. It's either that or Pokemon. Really Pokemon it should be. But yeah, hopefully we'll see that. And just to take it back to, I forgot to mention for Zelda quickly, something I'd like to see, but I don't know if they'll do it. They did remaster Link's Awakening for the Switch. I'd like to see them do the Oracle games next. Because the original Game Boy Color, I forgot the system. The original Game Boy Color Oracle games used the engine from Link's Awakening, or at least used its basis. So it makes perfect sense if you're going to remake Link's Awakening, remake the Oracle games next. And the Oracle games were fun and well received, so I'd like to see them do that. If they'll actually do it, it's hard to tell, but maybe there's hope. You never know with Nintendo. And for other Mario games, I think I could maybe see a Mario Party game, because Super Mario Party was a few years ago and they didn't really do anything to support it after release. So I think maybe we could see another Mario Party game revealed. Absolutely, I think we're probably going to get Mario Kart 9. Because again, it's been years. We got Mario Kart 8 Deluxe. It's time for the next Mario Kart. Deluxe has been doing fine, but I could absolutely see them revealing Mario Kart 9. We'll probably see a new DLC character for Smash revealed. If they were going to do another Fighters Pack, I don't know if they will or not. But if they did, this will be when they announce that they are doing it. So we'll see on that. And then the Metroid series. They have to show us Metroid Prime 4. It's been years since they announced it. The studio shifted since then. That was 2019, I believe. Yes, according to my notes, it was 2019. So it's time to see some Metroid Prime 4. Give us some news on that, because people are waiting. You announced it and you don't show us anything for years? Come on. And lastly, there's Pokemon. Don't know if we'll get anything on that, because the Gen 4 remakes are coming out later this year, which I personally don't really care about. I didn't like the original Diamond and Pearl. I liked the remakes of Gold and Silver more in Gen 4, but, I'm happy they're being remade. And I know they're making a Pokemon Legend. Is it Legends Arceus? Legends of Arceus? I know there's some sort of spin-off they're doing, which I remember looked interesting. But I know this is just a personal thing. For some reason, I got a feeling there's something else for Pokemon in the works. I don't quite know what. Maybe another spin-off? Like, they just did Pokemon Snap. So maybe like another spin-off thing, or another sequel like that. Maybe Pokemon Let's Go Kanto, or Let's Go Johto. Let's Go Togepi and Marill, maybe, I don't know. But I got a feeling maybe there'll be something Pokemon related besides the main games in Legends of Arceus. That's my personal feeling. I'll probably be wrong. We'll see. Just I am not a streamer, but I do need to hydrate. So that's Bethesda and Nintendo. Main event for me, of course, is Square Enix. I don't think we're gonna see anything on Kingdom Hearts because Kingdom Hearts 3 is come and done. Melody of Memory is come and gone and done. Kingdom Hearts X, I know it's key, but X is easier to say. Kingdom Hearts X has just ended. I did hear rumors they're gonna do like they did for 2.8, the like a compilation of cutscenes and movies of Kingdom Hearts X story stuff for people. I've heard rumors they're gonna do that again since it just ended, and if they haven't planned to do already, they really should, because there was a lot of critical lore in Kingdom Hearts X. So they have to make that more accessible to people who don't play mobile games, which is a fair amount of their fan base. You know, you can't assume everyone's gonna play a mobile game, and this mobile games especially, since people just look down on them. So I'd like to see some sort of attention with Kingdom Hearts X. Like, I don't know what format that would take. It seems a bit premature and a bit quick to announce, hey, we're gonna do like a condensed or abridged version of the game for home consoles or something. But they gotta do something with Kingdom Hearts X, because there's just so much lore in that needs to be more accessible to people. So maybe we'll get something, but I doubt it, because again, so much is come and gone and done with Kingdom Hearts, and I feel like the next Kingdom Hearts thing we'll get will be a big release, and it'll be in years. So for Final Fantasy, though, Final Fantasy 16. Oh, I'm 100% confident we're gonna see Final Fantasy 16. They've done the reveal trailer. They've done the official website. It's time to show us much more of 16. Show us much more of its world, its characters, and its gameplay. And I'm gonna say with Final Fantasy 16, when I saw the original trailer, like I watched the reveal trailer for 16, and I'm watching, and I was like, okay, this looks like Final Fantasy 14, but slightly better graphics. Okay, that was a thing, and that was really my thoughts. Like I was thinking, like, yeah, it looks like a generic fantasy story, kind of generic fantasy storyline and world. You know, the crystals have shaped our history for long enough because we've never done that before. I don't say this to be a hater. I don't know enough about 16 to hate it, but I also don't know enough to be hyped for it. So I'd like to learn more about 16 and see a big trailer for it that gets me hyped for it. I want to be hyped. 16 has to win me over. I want it to win me over at E3 this year. Final Fantasy 14. I don't play it, but I am curious about it. I follow it. I don't think we'll see much of 14 though, because Endwalker's coming at the end of the year, and 14 in terms of marketing seems to do its own thing with regards to when they release info and how they release info and that. So it doesn't feel like they're gonna hold back anything for E3. You know, they revealed the two new job classes. They revealed you go to the moon. Endwalker's. I don't think there's anything like. I don't think we're gonna see anything big from 14. Is what I'm getting at. Final Fantasy 7 Intergrade. Don't think we're gonna see anything on that. Well, I meant to say sorry. Final Fantasy 7 remake in general, because Intergrade. I was gonna say coming out this week, so I don't think I really doubt we're gonna see Part 2 at E3. Maybe probably next year. You know, depending on how long you think it's gonna take for Part 2. But I feel like we're not gonna see much of Part 2 for at least another year, because I think it's too soon. The timeline's too soon, especially if they're doing 16 coming out, which I assume it'll probably be next year, 16. You know, I don't think they're gonna. If they reveal more of Part 2, Final Fantasy 7 Remake Part 2 at E3, that now there's kind of like an overlap between the big three products there, and I don't think they're gonna do that. I could see them releasing or showing more of Ever Crisis, because they announced that, and First Soldier is now in open beta. So because it did just enter open beta, I can't really see them doing any big announcements on it, because they just launched the open beta. What could there be? If there were any big announcements, you'd think they'd do it before they opened the beta. So, but we might see something on Ever Crisis, which I'd like, because I'm interested in Ever Crisis. We get the story of Before Crisis in English at last. We can play through Advent Children, and it looks promising to me. I'm interested in Ever Crisis, so I'd like to see some of that at E3. And hydrate once more, because I'm going to talk a bit for this one. Final Fantasy Origins, the rumored remake of Final Fantasy 1, the original, in a Dark Souls style type game. Okay. I don't have any deep insights there, really. I know pretty much nothing about Dark Souls. I actually don't even know what genre it is. I'm guessing it's some sort of hack and slash type adventure RPG. I'm guessing, because I believe I've seen gameplay footage from the Souls series, but I don't know anything about it in terms of gameplay, in terms of tone, in terms of story. I know nothing about Souls. I will say, though, that the idea of a single-player hack-and-slash type game, remake of Final Fantasy 1, does sound like it has potential. Because Final Fantasy 1 has a very bare-bones narrative, but it does have a narrative, so there's a lot of ways you could go with a remake. Like, you could make a deeper, more interconnected plot line. Like, you could make Garland and the Four Fiends and Chaos have bigger roles. Or you could go the other direction and keep the narrative to a minimum and focus on the gameplay. And you could even make Final Fantasy 1 completely open world. Let the player go kill the Four Fiends when whatever order they want. So a lot of potential for a remake of Final Fantasy 1 in that manner that I think you wouldn't have with later Final Fantasy games. And also because it would be single player, that would work for the original Final Fantasy. You couldn't really do a single player, or rather single player character version of, say, Final Fantasy 6 or Final Fantasy 4. 4 sort of, but it wouldn't really work. For Final Fantasy, though, we've established the Warrior of Light, so I can see it working. What would I like to see? Well, my Square Enix wish list is so long. I'd love to see Final Fantasy 6 remake, but I know that's not going to happen. Ever, probably. Apparently in Japan, Final Fantasy 6 just doesn't have a big fan base, and Square Enix prioritizes what the Japanese side wants, so I just accept we're never going to see a 6 remake, at least, not 3D remake. We might see some sort of collection of titles, because I've seen people rumors and talk about the first 6 titles being compiled into a collection. I'd like to see that, but why I'd like to see it is probably not what they're going to do with it. If they do something like that, it'll probably just be take the 6 versions of the game that we ported to Steam and mobile phones over the last few years, slap them on a disc and release it for Switch and PS4 and Xbox. And that's probably what they'll do. What I'd like to do, though, Final Fantasy 3, we never played the original. We only ever got the DS remake. We've never played the original NES Final Fantasy 3. The 2D versions of Final Fantasy 4 can play substantially different from the 3D versions. But the 2D versions, the GBA version might be on the 3DS Virtual Console. I'm not sure off the top of my head. And there's the PSP one, which is probably still on beta, but re-releases of Final Fantasy 4 lately have focused on the 3D version. The 2D version has kind of drifted away. So I'd like to see that come back, and I'd like to just see a graphics overhaul of 5 and 6, because they need it, and the mobile versions look bad. So I think if they're going to do a compilation of the first 6 Final Fantasy games all together, I'd like to see them all get a graphics remaster. Keep them 2D, keep them the sprite-based graphics, but they could all use a graphics overhaul in my opinion. If they'll actually do that, like I said, they'll probably just do all the 6 games like the most recent re-release on one disc, but I could be proven wrong. But they might not, on the other end, they might not do a collection like that at all. We'll have to see what happens. Something I would really like, and I'm really sure that this is not going to happen, I'd love to see a Dissidia game, because the partnership with Team Ninja is ongoing, and I know Team Ninja is doing the Final Fantasy Origins, which could itself be a Dissidia thing, because Dissidia does tie into the lore of the original Final Fantasy, so it's not out of the question that it could be a Dissidia-ish game, or could be just, a sneaky code word for a Dissidia game. Like what they call it behind the scenes before they reveal it. But I'd like to see a new Dissidia game. Not even a remaster of Dissidia Duodecim, though that would be nice. I'd like to see a new Dissidia game, because the last couple of weeks, just to check things out in the game, I've been playing Dissidia NT, and honestly, once you get the hang of it, it's not that bad. Real problem with the game is just the lack of content. It's just online battles and AI battles, and there's nothing else to offer players there. It's just endless grinding and fighting. And like, the story isn't bad, the story mode isn't bad, and it does have fights in it, but you have to unlock those fights by fighting against the AI and online. So if they just patched out Dissidia NT to remove the concept of Memoria entirely and just let the players play through the storyline, that I think a lot of people would be more receptive to it. But yeah, Dissidia NT, it's not bad now that I've played it more. So I would be interested in using Dissidia NT as a launch pad in terms of gameplay to do a more full Dissidia game with a lot more content to it and keep the gameplay, balance it, tweak it to work for 1v1 better, which it would have to be drastic, but they could do it. I'd like to see something with that, a new Dissidia game. What I think would actually be perfect, and I've mentioned to other people, Dissidia Warriors. Because I feel like you got the mannequins, you got the famous locations, you got the boss characters. Dissidia is perfect for a Warriors type spin-off. And they've done so many Warriors crossovers too, why not Final Fantasy? And especially with the partnership with Team Ninja ongoing, it makes perfect sense. Dissidia Warriors would be awesome. And you could add more characters as DLC and give them their own little DLC story modes. It'd be a lot of fun. I would be 110% down for a Dissidia Warriors game. Now, is that actually going to happen? Again, this is just my wish list, not my predictions. There's potential for more Dissidia, because I think Square Enix recognizes that there is fan interest in Dissidia, just not Dissidia NT. Because Opera Omnia is still going strong. Third year anniversary was earlier this year, and Japan is 6 months ahead, so it's almost 4 years in Japan. And it's making them so I assume if they're keeping it ongoing, one, it's making them money, and two, they're recognizing that players want to keep playing it. So hopefully they'll recognize they do want a new Dissidia game, just NT wasn't the way to go about it. So hopefully we'll get some sort of home console Dissidia someday. But again, that's more my wish list than my predictions. Final Fantasy Origins, if it is, as the rumors say, just hack and slash type Final Fantasy 1 remake, I'd want to see a trailer first before I judge and get hyped or write it off or whatever, but definitely has potential. I'm definitely interested in that. Could be neat. Good. So, yeah. That's my E3 predictions. Bethesda, probably going to see Starfield for sure. Probably going to be the main event for them. Might see something from the Elder Scrolls, maybe see something from Fallout, maybe not. I think we're going to see something big from Mario. We're definitely going to see Breath of the Wild 2. Maybe something in terms of Donkey Kong and Mario Kart, and also maybe Yoshi, because Yoshi's Crafted World was a few years ago, so maybe they'll reveal a new Yoshi spin-off. Definitely Metroid Prime 4, maybe something with Pokemon. With Square Enix, probably not anything Kingdom Hearts, but we're definitely going to get some Final Fantasy 16, I think. Maybe some 14, maybe some 7, Ever Crisis, and of course Final Fantasy Origins. And I'm also wondering now if they are revealing Final Fantasy Origins, is it or Final Fantasy 16 going to be like the headline event at this E3, assuming they do reveal both? Which will be interesting. I think it'll give us an idea of how they view the project and what its scale is, if Final Fantasy Origins is the main event or not. Which it probably won't be, because Final Fantasy 16 is the main series. Origins will be more like a spin-off. But still, I'd like to see. I'm interested in both. I'll just say. So yeah, that's what I'm looking forward to E3. It comes next week. I'm excited. I want to be hyped. Uh, I'm not hyped for 16. I'm not hyped for Starfield. I'm not hyped for Breath of the Wild 2. I'm one of those aliens that was kind of on the original Breath of the Wild. So I want these guys to win me over and get me hyped. So hopefully they do that. I'll see you next week.